Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
There is absolutely nothing that stinks more than that one particular moment during an argument when you realize you're wrong. Ooh, I've been there. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Have a good one. Oh, there she goes, the wonderful Kate Smith, and God Bless America. Good morning to you. I'm Zeb Bell, and Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and some of our great advertisers on the program, including Lease Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland and Burley. And let's not forget our dear friends at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today. Call them at 734-6969. And right now, the always friendly and great hostess with the mostest, Gina.
Always friendly?
Yeah, I know. I stretch things a little bit.
Yeah, really. I was going to say, wow, that's how much money do I owe you for that one?
Yeah, well, I know your check is in the mail.
It is. And happy Wednesday to you.
I need Wednesdays.
You do?
I do. I really need Wednesdays. Man, when you suffer through a Monday and a Tuesday, a Wednesday is a home run, man.
And then we've got Thursday, and then it's a downhill slide for the weekend.
Yeah, I've got to run away tomorrow, though, and leave it in the hands of you and Sharon Hardy Mills.
Yes, I'm going to be actually kind of excited. It'll be a fun day.
Oh, gee, you're excited that I'm leaving.
No, not really.
Okay.
But I'm excited that I get to do the show with Sharon.
Oh, okay. Well, there's a caveat there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've got a whole bunch of things to talk about, and we got to get to it. But first and foremost, do we have a pledger?
You and me, Toots.
Oh, well then, Toots? Toots? I wonder where that name came from.
I don't know. It must have been in the 20s or something.
I knew a rodeo cowboy that had the first name Toots. Toots Mansfield. Really? And
he didn't catch any guff for that?
Oh, wow. As big and tough as he was, I doubt seriously. But anyway, I wonder where that name Toots came from.
I don't know. I'll actually have to Google that.
T-O-O-T-S. Google Toots. You have to be careful when you mention that on the radio.
Yes, you do.
And you have to be very articulative.
Articulative? Yeah. Another Zebism for the day.
It's another Zebism. But boy, when you get yourself into a hole, stop digging.
And we're digging. Okay, so who's going to do the...
You are.
Oh, I am?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was excellent. Thank you very much. Time for the weather. Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Yes. And the telephone number is 678-6945. And they can help you with all your hardwood flooring, laminates, vinyl sheeting, and, of course, the carpet and the cabinets and the natural stone, the Oakley stone, and do all your countertops. And they say we can meet or beat any price on flooring. Free in-house consultation, and their slogan is where your home design needs are aisles apart, not miles apart. Call them today, 678-6945, Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. And here is the weather.
Well, it looks like partly cloudy skies for today. Slightly breezy. Wind's going to be out of the west side around 11 miles an hour. Expect a high of 86 for today. Tonight, low near 58. Now, tomorrow, we're going to see a little bit of a change. We do have a 40% chance of afternoon thunderstorms. Still going to be slightly breezy, about 10 miles an hour out of the southwest, high of 75 with an overnight low near 52. And by Friday, winds picking up to about 16 miles an hour, partly cloudy, and 75, currently sitting at 58 degrees.
All right. Kyle and Whitney Cheney of Cheney Flooring and Home Design invite you to come on by 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for their blue door. Give them a call, 678-6945. You better believe it. Cheney Flooring and Home Design bringing you the weather. Oh, calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. On a very, very serious note, and I want everybody to listen, please, carefully. This morning at 9:30 until 3 this afternoon, Magic Valley Tire, Les Schwab Tires in Paul, will be closed in honor of the J. Lynn Twist's funeral. And my wife and I specifically want to mention our prayers are with the Twist family. So again, Magic Valley Tire in Paul will be closed from 9:30 this morning until 3 this afternoon in honor of the J. Lynn Twist funeral. And again, our thoughts and prayers go to the Twist family. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Ramsey Heating and Electric. Don't forget 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Air conditioning weather. Woo! Warm. And there you are sitting at your desk and the sweat's pouring off your hands and the ink's running on your paper. Well, hey, listen, put a new filter in that air conditioner so that it runs efficiently. A dirty filter in your air conditioner is going to cause you all kinds of trouble. So make sure that you have clean air filters in your air conditioning and sit back and just go, feels so good. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, 678-0459. You better believe that's the number where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Ramsey Heating and Electric, serving you. I have a little bit more on a story that we ran yesterday, and I wanted to mention this to you because I'm going to try to get this gentleman, Larry Murphree, on the air, hopefully this next Monday. This is the gentleman, the veteran in Florida, that outside of his home, and I've got pictures of the home and the front of his home, he had a small, and I mean very small, 8.5 by 11 sized American flag that was put very nicely in a flower pot. Oh my goodness, as we mentioned yesterday, all heck broke loose, and the Homeowners Association came after him, and they said, you can't display a flag, and you got to take it down, and he said, no, I'm not going to take our American flag down. I'm going to leave it right there. And it looks, to look at it in the flower pot, it just doesn't bother anyone, I wouldn't think. It just absolutely looks the part of the front of his house. And the homeowners around him, the other neighbors, are in agreement with him. Fight him! Fight him! Leave that flag there. So we're going to see what happens. Already, they have fined this man over $8,000. $8,000. And he said, basically, bring it on. I am not going to take that flag down. I'm not going to take it out of that flower pot. I serve my country. I love this country, and I'm putting the flag up in honor of those that are fighting for this country. And he said, hey, even if I face foreclosure and he may lose his home, he said, nope, flag stays there. God bless him. Larry Murphree. And he is in Florida with a very small American flag, but a very big heart and love of his country. And he loves his country more than he loves his home and keeping his home. And I really respect him for that. God bless him. God bless him. Time to stand up and fight. Tell these absolutely insane, asinine bureaucrats, take a hike. There you go. Valley Wine Home and Ranch, all your fishing supplies, all your lures, rods, tackles, bait, everything you need, even your licenses are at Valley Wine. I know a lot of people probably are saying, let's get out of here for the 4th of July. Let's go on a mountain someplace. Let's go lay on a lake bed someplace and let's go fishing. Well, there you go. Valley Wine has all your fishing supplies. And they got special T-shirts on sale, 3 for $9. $3 for $9. How can you sell 3 T-shirts for $9? Holy cow, you better get on in there. Valley Wine Home and Ranch, and this Friday they're going to have 4-H group selling hamburgers and all the trimmings right there at Valley Wine Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. You stop in and see these really, really nice people today at Valley Wine Home and Ranch. Oh, and by the way, too, another place that I want to mention real quick, and then I'll start taking your calls, is Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley. Well, what can you say? What a great, great treat it is for us at Zeb's Lunch Bunch to have Denny's Restaurant. Wow. I mean, we go in there, and people start coming in, I mean, like an hour early at 10:30 in the morning, and they're eating, and they're ordering off the menu, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Oh, and I have had everybody tell me they just love the menu. It is fantabulous. Thomas, the manager owner, and all the crew, Terry, everybody does such a great job serving the public, and we love it. Don't forget, Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley, the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch, and you are going to love the food. All right, give us a call. 436-2244-1866-927-4587. Hey, Gina, did you hear about the Minneapolis woman that dialed 911? I got to see if she's there.
No, I didn't.
This is a crazy, crazy story, and you, of all people, wouldn't have to worry about this because I think you're pretty good at protecting yourself. But now picture this. This Minneapolis woman goes home to her apartment, and it's late at night, and she's been working overtime at her office, and she locks the door, and she moves away from the door, and she's hanging up her coat, and all of a sudden the doorknob starts to jiggle. And the door starts to get jiggled back and forth. And somebody is trying to get into her apartment. So she runs to the phone and dials 911. And 911 operator says, 911, New York City.
And she's in Minneapolis?
Yeah. Now, wouldn't that be a little disconcerting to you?
Yeah, that would be a little bit disconcerting to me, and I would be hoping that that particular dispatcher had gotten transferred. Either that or I'd say, can you please transfer me to the Minneapolis?
Yeah, but the problem is, and you've touched on it, the problem is here they have no idea how, when she called 911 call center, which, by the way, listen to this, is 2 minutes away from her apartment. 2 minutes. Okay. And she calls and they say 911 New York City, and she says, oh my goodness, New York City, how did I get in New York City? Well, when you're in a hurry and you're trying to protect yourself, she got really nervous and she said, well, what can you do? Can you help me? And so fortunately, New York City was able to reconnect back to Minneapolis and get her some help on the way so that they chased away the intruder. And like I said, she was only 2 minutes away from the 911 dispatch center right there in Minneapolis. But how do things like this happen?
I don't know. Bad routing. The phone.
Yeah, I'd say.
Obviously, I would be freaking out too. If I dialed 911, I want to get like Minidoka County or something local. I don't want to be getting New York. I have a feeling, and if you could turn up you and your feed to me, I'm having a hard time hearing you. But I have a feeling in your case, this is the scenario that would play out in your home. There's a jiggle on the door.
and someone is trying to break in. Gina Jameson, very calmly, walks over to the closet and grabs an object out of the closet, then walks back over to the door that would enter this intruder into her apartment, and she says the following words, "Yes, come on in. I have Mr. Smith and Mr. Wesson that want to meet you."
Probably true, and my brother would be standing right in front of me.
I just have really out there in Radio Land, this is one mama you do not want to cross.
Oh, I would be gladly meeting that person at the door saying, "Hello, sir. Meet Mr. Smith and Mr. Wesson. Who would you like to say hello to, sir?"
Yeah, and we make jokes out of this, but people need to be prepared today more than ever to defend themselves, because there's a classic case of where the police can't be everywhere at the drop of a hat. And here, of all things, this poor woman dials 911 as she thought she was doing right and ends up in New York City. Good heavens.
I know, that would be absolutely crazy. And thankfully that they were able to reroute her to the correct dispatch center. But, wow, that was bad routing on the phone center on whoever carrier she was on. And I'd be calling the carrier and saying, what the heck?
Yeah, or words to that effect.
Exactly words, but
yeah.
I was saying what the heck.
Calls are welcome, 436-2244-1-866-927-4587. Hey, you need a Bobcat excavator. I'm telling you what, Bobcats are so handy to have. I wish I had one right here around my place sometimes to help fill in things, clean out things, go do this, go do that. Well, I know the place to go, and that's Berry Equipment and Rental. You better believe it. They've got 3 locations, Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, South Lincoln and Jerome, and their new location really doing well, 159 West Highway 30 in Burley with Nick and the crew. Oh, my goodness, they got a great lineup of Bobcat excavators and lease payments and great financing available. You better check them out today. Bobcat and Berry Equipment and Rental in Twin, Jerome, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley, serving you. All right, what in the world? Let's get some calls. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. What is wrong? And I'm asking you to answer this question, audience. What is wrong with our media? This is a mess. ABC, CBS, NBC, they are not covering anything on this explosive IRS story. As a matter of fact, I think the networks combined over the last couple of days in the evening news only gave like 3 minutes of coverage. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, sir. I want to address that just a little bit. There's a video on YouTube, and I didn't snope it to see if it's factual, but President, our Emperor, or whatever, he gave a speech in Brussels in May of 2014, and there's a 19-second clip, and I'll paraphrase as best I can, but he said the international community is about to get its long-term goals. He said the ordinary citizen is too simple-minded to handle their own affairs, and that they must turn their rights over to an absolute sovereign. These words come right out of his mouth. It's the most shocking video to watch his facial expressions and him give that speech.
Now, I'm going to be very careful here because I have not heard that speech. I have not seen that video clip, and I'm going to ask you to be very emphatic about this. Did you see the clip? Did you see it firsthand? And were the terms, like you stated, simple-minded, were they absolutely used? Because I only deal with fact.
Yes, sir. I saw him give it, and I'm here at my shop, and I'm a little bit, I don't have the computer in front of me. I can't tell you the deal, but it was a YouTube video. I was emailed from out of Houston, Texas, by some fellow believers in Jesus Christ, and they followed pretty closely. And I agree. I didn't, the Snopes or Snoops or whatever it is, I didn't run it through that to see if it was an actual thing, but it is his actual self giving this speech in Brussels.
One thing, and I don't think I have to caution you.
or something.
One thing I want to caution you, even though I don't think I have to caution you, you're a sharp guy, but you need to be very, very careful about sometimes verbiage on videos is replaced so that it will match or come close to matching the shapes of and sounds of what the mouth is saying. In other words, sometimes they can dub things in, and it's hard to distinguish whether it was the actual verbiage or not. And I'm going to find that. I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to discern whether it was true or not.
Yeah, I just know what I saw.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm not. I absolutely respect you for calling in on this.
Cover that.
What are your thoughts, honestly, about an administration and or a president that would say something like that, if that was the entirety of what he said?
I had that opinion before he was elected the first time, that this man disliked our way of life, disliked. I could not bring myself to have any faith in him at all. So,
let me ask you this.
I thought that was interesting. I wanted to bring it up on the air. We're going to pass it around, forward it, and people can make up their own mind and search it out and see if it is true. All
right. Well, if you get it,
Russell, I know that. I think you could YouTube and Google the speech, because it had a whole series of the full speech, yada, everything. And I'm sure that anybody can, and it was done in May of 2014, so he was the international type deal, and boy, I think it can be found out. All
right, well, I'll tell you what, sir, I absolutely appreciate and respect your call this morning. Thank you for sharing with us, and I'll do my own check-in on this, too. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good deal. That's what I had in mind.
Yes, sir. God bless you. I thank you. You know, the minimization of us and the lowering of us by world leaders is really bothering me, whether it's the UN, whether it's Obama, whomever it is. Caller, good morning. Your thoughts. Go ahead.
Yes, I've seen the same video, and it was just absolutely appalling, and I was infuriated, but I know he truly believes that, even though I found out that it's been taken out of context and cut and pasted, so to speak, to make it look like he said it in that blatant of terms, but he didn't.
Well, see, Randy, right there, let me interrupt. You have to remember, and to the other caller also, I only deal in factual information, and that's why I said just a moment ago we got to be really careful that there wasn't a dubbing in or a transition of what the real tape was.
Well, and that's what I found out, and that it wasn't. It was cut and pasted, so to speak, however you want to say it. And so he said those things, but it was out of context. But you see, the truth of the matter is anybody that's worth their salt and knows a thing or two would know that this man truly doesn't feel this way about people, and he hates America, and you just can't say it enough. You just should only pray and hope that somehow there's a crisis in people's lives to the point where they go, oh my God, we've got to wake up, and you go, yeah, thank God. It took you long enough.
Randy, let me ask you something. Then I got the hard break at the bottom of the hour. But last night I was shocked that and I only caught a little bit of it, even Bill O'Reilly, that is so sold on himself and is so smug and so arrogant, I noticed last night a start, if you will, to acknowledge that others probably were right about Obama on many of his topics and what he wanted to do as president, more so than he was. I think O'Reilly was kind of taken aback by having to admit that others were right about Obama and he might have been wrong.
Well, there's so many scandals, and you just say, well, how long does it take before the people finally force the issue? Because the media isn't doing it, and they're not going to. They're such lapdogs. It's amazing. You say, do you have relatives and friends that live in this country? Are you really living behind a gated community to the point where you will never have to be dealing with your fellow man in any way, shape, or form? These people are are mentally ill.
I'm beginning to think that maybe you're right. The left needs help, but I don't want to extend the life raft. Hey, listen, Randy, appreciate your call. God bless you, man. Thanks much. I'm glad that Randy called, and because I am so afraid of doctoring or changing or altering the verbiage or the speech patterns of some tape so that it suits whatever you want to say. You got to be really careful about that, especially some of those tapes on YouTube. We're going to have the Capitol Press Ag Minute. I'll be right back. Don't go away.
Today's Ag Minute brought to you by the Capitol Press, the West Ag Weekly.
Despite the phenomenal growth in Idaho agriculture's economic output in recent years, the state's farming industry has not created more jobs. That's not a bad thing, says University of Idaho agricultural economist Garth Taylor. It just means the industry has become more efficient. Taylor said a lot of people have the impression that the state's farming and ranching industry have created a lot of new jobs, but data from the U.S. Department of Commerce disproves that assumption. While the overall number of jobs in Idaho has increased significantly since the 1990s, farm jobs have barely budged. As agriculture becomes more efficient, experts say, the demand for certain kinds of jobs declines. For the Capitol Press Ag Minute, this is Brandon Tenner.
For more agriculture news and information, turn to the West Ag Weekly, the Capitol Press, and CapitolPress.com.
Don't forget the Silver State Stampede in Elko, Nevada, Nevada's oldest rodeo. My goodness, it's going to be ripping fun. July 10, 11, and 12 at the Elko County Fairgrounds. Thursday night, the 10th starts with the annual kickoff party. Home high, it's fun. And the Big Western Trade Show, all kinds of things. A tri-tip dinner, all of that and more. Old West bronc riding, and then on Friday and Saturday night, PRCA rodeo action at its best right there at Elko, Nevada for the Silver State Stampede at the Elko County Fairgrounds. Don't you miss it. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. What is wrong? I said this a few minutes ago, and I want to ask you this question. What is wrong with our media that is supposed to represent us? It is supposed to be our mouthpiece, CBS, NBC, ABC. They will not do anything, carry anything that is going to be negative against Obama's administration. They are not doing their job in informing the public, and most people only get those networks. They don't get the cable TV networks, but the networks are not carrying the story that is blowing out of proportion, getting bigger and bigger every day, and that's on the IRS scandal. The scandal with the IRS. It is a scandal. It is a crime against Americans. And the arrogancy of Mr. Koskinen, oh my, to be a congressman and sit there in that hearing and listen and watch this man with his arrogant, I'm holier than thou attitude. I have never seen anyone that is going to be sitting there and giving testimony be that arrogant and that cold and that direct and that smirky, quirky smile on his face. I couldn't stand it. I could not stand it. And they lost the documents. The computers crashed, and it's so funny that Lois Lerner's computer went down and 6 others that were going to be subpoenaed to testify before Congress. Oh, well, the dog ate the hard drive. It's gone. These people work for us. Can you imagine you're audited by the IRS and you're going through all the headaches and the pitfalls and the nerve-wracking experience of knowing that you've got that audit with the IRS, and many of you out in the audience probably have gone through that. And all of a sudden, something happens, and much of the information that you have to prove your innocence is gone. Do you think for 5 holy seconds that the IRS is going to buy that the hard drive and your computer went down? Big deal, that's tough, you're dead in the water. But they can get away with this, and we, the American public, are supposed to buy into this. 76%, I'm not making this number up, 76% of Americans believe the IRS lied. and hid and destroyed the emails. 76%. Kind of a tough percentage to overcome. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Add one more, make it 77%.
Go ahead, Al.
You know, I get so sick and tired of when these investigations going on, they're trying to get to the truth. Then you got guys like that Cummings and that woman from D.C., that Norton, and them other people, them Democrats, praise how good a job this guy's doing. You damn right, he's one of the biggest liars I've ever seen on TV.
You know, the waste, I'm going to say this, and you might not agree with me, but when you get someone like Gowdy and Cummins in the same room, you're going to have a hot button and a cold button. You're going to have those that disagree and those that agree, and you're really not getting to the crux of the problem. All you're doing is stirring a debate that's never going to be answered. What they need to do is have a private investigatory team, Al. They need to nail them.
Well, this thing now, this administration, you can't have any justice done because of what a bunch of the damn crooks you've got sitting in office. Holder and all them guys, they should all be kicked clear out of the United States because they broke every law that we've made since this world began.
I agree.
That's all there is to it.
Yeah, but I want you to comment on Koskinen's arrogancy. Really never have I seen anybody give testimony that sat there with this, I got my hand in the cookie jar look and I don't care. This guy is the coolest character for being arrogant and self-reliant that I've ever seen.
Well, there's a contempt of Congress.
Nail him. I say nail him.
All you have to do is put the paperwork in and then start it because he's worse than a learner. He's the biggest liar sitting on that stand.
I'm not going to argue that at all. I'm just amazed as to how cold and calculating and sarcastic and arrogant that this man is. He should be hauled out behind the woodshed and have a personality disorder change.
I would say he'd need a good personality change.
All right, Al. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. God bless you, man. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't go away. Don't forget the Rupert businesses are supporting the 4th of July celebration over in Rupert, and they include Mad River Laser. Oh, my. You better believe it. 502 East Street in Rupert, next door to the Youth Ranch, right there on the square. My goodness, and if you need parade banners for the big 4th of July parade, go on in there to Mad River Laser, mention my name, and you'll get 15% off your order for your banners. Oh my. And they're going to have the grand opening during the week of the 4th of July celebration too. Hey, I'm telling you, these are great folks. And Nicole and the crew at Mad River Laser in Rupert. And don't forget too, Magic Valley Carpet, 613 D Street over in Rupert. Oh my goodness. 35 years of experience in all floor coverings, expert professional installation, and they've got all the carpet, hardwoods, vinyl, laminate style. They've got all your flooring needs right there at Magic Valley Carpet, 613 D Street in Rupert. And those businesses support the Rupert 4th of July celebration. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
My biggest problem is the Congress. Why aren't they doing anything about it? They were hired to take care of business, to represent us, and they're not doing a dang thing. This guy's been running amok so bad. He's broken so many laws, and they're not doing anything. They keep putting out new laws, but they're not enforcing the old ones.
All right, wait a minute. Kiltman, let's be real straight up here. What can or should they be doing?
Impeach.
All right.
Just go after them. Shut them down. I mean, they can't do anything else until they get it straightened out. Let's shut them down.
Well, the reason I asked you that question, Kiltman, is you're a very dear friend, and you and I both think the same way on most subjects. But you and I both know that there is a comfort zone that even though, whether they're Republican or whether they're Democrat, they're not going to step out of their comfort zone that might put them in icy waters to where they might not get re-elected. I want somebody that's got some backbone. There's another word I want to use. But you know what? We're not going to see that with any of these elected officials.
Well, then we got to go to the next step. We got to get our state officials to get their act together and shut the government down. Take over what's ours and shut them down. We don't necessarily need them. We don't need them.
Well,
we can run this state. We can bring in the money. We can do what we need to do. We don't need the federal government in our pocket.
About the only guys, and I want you to respond to this. Caller number 2, I'll be right there. Stand by. About the only guys that I've got any respect for on these committees are, and to name one is Trey Gowdy. I think he's got some backbone and something else. And Darrell Issa from California seems to have that. But the other ones they're just for lip service to get their 5 minutes of fame on national TV, ask questions that they think are poignant, and then sit back and relish, oh boy, my constituents will think I'm a tough guy back home. That's the problem. Nobody really is a tough guy.
Well, there's not enough of them to do any good at this point. The one thing is, like in those hearings for the IRS, it was the Republican congressman from Arizona that read out the laws and rules behind impeachment to the IRS guy. And it's like everybody, he just looked at him and smugly and, okay, whatever. Yeah,
I agree. Hey, by the way, real fast, Kiltman, first annual Iron Kilt Festival is going to be at the South Freedom Park in Burley this Saturday, June 28th, starting at 8 o'clock with registration, 9 o'clock with the Scottish Highland Games. You're going to be there, and good luck. I hope everything goes well.
Okay, thank you, my friend. Come to see us.
All right, God bless. Have a good day.
Bye.
Caller number 2, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
You're asking, Kiltman, what can we do? People need to go to jail. The contempt of court is contempt of court. Contempt of Congress is pretty much the same thing, isn't it?
Well, you know, I'm agreeing with you and Kiltman and everybody else that we need to start enforcing the laws. But I think you will agree with me, Riley, that a lot of these senators and congressmen, there's a line someplace that they will not step over for fear that that's going to be the line of separation that's going to get them in trouble and possibly not get them reelected, possibly tee somebody off so that it's going to be a negative on their career. And I don't care if they step over that line. Right now we've got problems. We've got the Benghazi hearings, the IRS hearings. We've got NSA problems. We've got the Fast and Furious problems. We've got a president that's selling us out to the enemy. Somebody better start stepping up, Riley.
I agree with you. My thing is they're not stepping up and doing their job. I don't vote for them. They're going to get voted out anyway.
Well,
they need to be held responsible and accountable for their actions.
We have no control.
I could bet you my high dollar that I'll go to jail.
We have no control over people in other states. It amazes me. For instance, Charlie Rangel, 84 years old. He should have been turned out to pasture a long time ago, not only because of his age, but also because of his criminality. He's a criminal, and he's possibly going to get back in again. I mean, this is ludicrous.
It's a shame.
All right. Riley, appreciate it. I got to do the weather. I appreciate your call. Thank you so much. God bless. Calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Gina, are you right there listening? I need you to do something for me really, really fast, if you would.
What's that?
Would you, if you could, Google over there, what did Charlie Rangel end up last night in his primary? Did he end up winning the opportunity to serve his constituents again in New York area?
Let's see.
If you could check on that, I'll do a commercial and come right back with you, okay?
Okay, you got it.
Disgusting. 84 years old. The guy's a crook. The guy has laundered money. The guy has laundered how he's handled some real estate deals. He hasn't served the public in an honest, forthright fashion. Charlie Rangel's a crook. I hope he did not win his primary. Snyder Surplus. Oh, these are nice people. I absolutely love being over there for that remote broadcast and their new business, their new store, friendly service, new merchandise, all at 112 South, 200 west of Rupert. Oh my gosh, it's only 2 blocks south of the Rupert Golf Course corner. You better get on in. Their hours are 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, Saturdays 10 to 3, and it's not just a military surplus store. They've got everything. So stop in and say howdy at Snyder's Surplus, and they're celebrating having a brand new, beautiful store in serving you, Snyder's Surplus. Caller, I'll be right with you. I have to do the weather real quick, and I'll be ready right after that, so stay tuned. The weather this hour is brought to you by Burley Glass at 1029 Overland in Burley. And they work so hard to provide great service to all the communities in Magic Valley. And summer's here, so you better update your windows before the cold weather comes back. We put their beautiful, beautiful windows in my office, and they are phenomenal. Leslie and Gentle Ben, all the crew at Burley Glass. Get a bid today on how they can help save you energy on your windows. Burley Glass, 1029 Overland in Burley, 678-1459. And now, here is the weather.
Looks like partly cloudy skies for today. Will be slightly breezy out of the west, right around 11 miles an hour. High of 86 tonight, low near 58. Now tomorrow we are expecting some afternoon thunderstorms, about a 40% chance. Could be some rain showers mixed in there as well. Still going to be slightly breezy, high of 75 with an overnight low near 52. And for Friday, partly cloudy, breezy, and 75. Currently sitting at 62 degrees here at KBAR.
You know, this gal can do anything, and do it well. Thank you, Gina, very much. I appreciate that. Burley Glass, 1029 Overland Avenue in Burley, working hard to provide great service to all the communities in Magic Valley. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Thank you for your patience.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. One other issue we've got. This morning I saw this fellow about the flag. I think the mistake he made was he should have set up a flag surrender day. And he should have notified the VA, his congressmen, the TV stations, radio stations, and the Tea Party bunch. And I would have made a big splash out of this thing. Set up one day to surrender my flag.
I see your point, but I'm the kind of a guy that I side with Larry Murphree in Florida, and I would say, okay, you want to take this flag down, you just try and come and get it. It's going to stay right there. I think that we all should be very adamant that never, ever, anywhere in the United States does our United States flag be forced to come down.
Well, I would have done my best to embarrass the people that are running that state, and I would have made a big stink over it.
Well, I'll guarantee you one thing. I'm not saying you're wrong. Believe me, I think that we need to skin the cat, quite frankly, on this thing. But there are so many people, and this liberal left thought about how the flag and certain aspects of the flag and our military is offensive, and they want to hide it. They want to throw it in the closet and not have it displayed. I say fly more of them. And, Tony, God bless you for your thoughts. We need to be very vocal and very blatant that our flag does not come down.
That's right. There's a lot of bloodshed over our flag, and let's not forget that.
Absolutely. God bless you and Mary. Have a great day, okay?
Thank you. You too.
Thank you, sir. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. I'd like to hear from you. There is, and I don't have a lot of time left on this, but there's another story that is so disconcerting to me, and I am going to try to get Alliance Defending Freedom to come on the air and talk about this either Monday or the following Monday, but just to tell you how much of a heinous, absolutely ridiculous movement is going on through Islam and the Muslims, not only in this country but around the world, with the pushing of Sharia law. Sharia law. A Sudanese woman by the name of Maryam Ibrahim has been sentenced to death in May, this last spring in May. And what was her crime? Supposedly, she converted from Islam to Christianity. And she has been sentenced to death by the Sudanese people and government. Oh, my Lord. This is such a tragic story where this woman, and she reiterated, she said, I never was a Muslim, ever, she said, and she told the Sudanese High Court that. She said, I was raised a Christian from the start. But they won't hear of it. And just day before yesterday, Tony Perkins, and I'm trying to remember the organization that Tony Perkins works with. I want to say the American Family Association, but I'm not sure about that title. But Tony Perkins was on television, and he was commenting about how maybe her and her husband, who is in a wheelchair, and their small son are going to be able to get out of Sudan and hopefully take refuge coming here to the United States. Well, then yesterday, it was a heartbreaking day because the Sudanese government rearrested her. And I don't know if Gina's heard anything at the station or if there's been any news flashes yet this morning, but as of last evening, when I finally went to bed, I checked the news again, and it was uncertain as to her fate and what had happened, because the Sudanese government was trying to literally kill her, all because she was and is a Christian.
According to Al, that they were released.
Did they make the plane in Sudan and they're headed to a safe house and a safe nation, I hope?
Yes.
It was touch and go yesterday, Gina, when they rearrested her at the airport. And Sudan's penal code criminalizes the conversion of Muslims to other religions, which is punishable by death. Have you ever heard of anything so heinous in your life?
No, I have not, honestly. And but they do say that she was released in Sudan, and that she was free to leave, and that just actually pulling up the news story right now.
Well, the thing is, though, this is not just one story in this particular vein. This is going on all the time, where Christians are being persecuted around the globe by Muslims. Look at the deaths that were caused by the ISIS. They literally threw Christians into a pit and shot some of them, poured gasoline on others, and burned them alive, and then buried them with a bulldozer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's happening all over the world. And since when did becoming a Christian be a bad thing?
Well, I guess maybe it's time that we in the United States that live within, and you will admit, a comfort zone. Okay? We can criticize, and we still have the freedom of speech, underline those words, the freedom of speech and criticism of our government, etc., and our leaders and what they're doing or not doing, etc. But my goodness, the persecution and the killing of Christians around the world has jumped in enormous numbers. And we sit back and we're not being vocal enough. We're not doing anything about it. And honestly, it could happen here.
Yep, it definitely could.
And when I read this story about Miriam Ibrahim, I was just absolutely stricken with grief, hoping that she could get out of there. And I'm glad that you had an update over there on the web this morning, and I certainly hope they're on their way to freedom. But you know something, Gina? As heinous as these people that perpetrate these crimes are, really, does she have a safe zone or a safe house?
No, she doesn't. She's going to have to leave the country.
She's going to have to watch over her shoulder 24/7.
Yep.
It's terrible. Calls are welcome, 436-2244. The dog's barking, and I have no idea why. Neither does she, by the way. Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. And I want to remind you that Magic Valley Tire in Paul will be closed from 9:30 to 3 today in honor of Jalen Twist and the funeral. And our prayers go out to the Twist family. I want to remind you that at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, don't forget that the very best in tires for all of your driving needs. Absolutely all of your driving needs. All the different tread designs and for your cars, pickups, SUVs, horse trailers, boat trailers, whatever, they've got the tires for you. So stop in and see them today. And easy credit plans available too. 4 different credit plans are available, and they can serve you with also the tires, the front end alignments, the shocks and struts, the best in brake service, and of course batteries, custom wheels. It's all there for your driving convenience and safety. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All right, give us a call. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Does your son, Kennedy, does he like basketball? Does he kind of imitate and emulate some particular basketball player?
No, he does not.
He doesn't like it, huh? All right, if I were to say...
He doesn't emulate anybody.
All right, well, let me ask you this. What name would you say? If I were to ask you the name of a pro basketball player, what name comes right to your tongue? Go ahead.
Larry Bird.
Really? Now, that surprises me. Larry is old and fat like the rest of us and retired, but a former Hall of Famer with the Boston Celtics.
Yep.
Most people today would say LeBron James. And did you hear what LeBron James did yesterday?
He went free agent.
And that is a thumb in the eye to the Miami Heat. Boy, there's going to be a mess down in Miami, and I wonder where he's going to end up playing this next year.
Who knows? But I guess he, backed out of the last 2 years of his contract and went free agent. Yeah, I was kind of shocked to hear that.
And Pat Riley, the CEO of the Miami Heat, is not a happy camper this morning.
No, I remember Pat Riley when he was the head coach of the Lakers.
Yeah.
He can be quite the heated gentleman.
Oh, and the terminology "heated gentleman," that's kind of an oxymoron there.
Yeah, it was always fun to watch him speak, and read lips on the sidelines.
Amen. Caller, I know we have a caller. Good morning. You're on the air. Quickly, I've got a minute left.
Okay, I just wanted to make a point real quick, Zeb. I seen this thing on Facebook today, and it kind of made a lot of sense to me. Had a picture of this old boy that was a veteran, and he was reading in the newspaper and whatnot, and then the next little picture of the cartoon, you see him he's by the United States-Mexican border. And he walks across it with his walker, and he turns around and walks across, and they said, "Sure, sir, we can get you right over to the hospital and give you all the medical attention you need."
There is a lot of irony. There is a small bit of humor in that, but there is so much truth in that statement. Illegals and what they receive from us is so much more pronounced and so much more on a fast track than what we provide for our veterans and others in our own country. And I am absolutely appalled by what we do.
Well, them old boys, a lot of them gave everything.
That's right.
So we could be here today.
Amen. Amen.
We've got a president and a country that just doesn't give a damn anymore.
It appears that way, and I'm going to do all I can to draw attention to it, and I want to tell you how much I appreciate your call. God bless you. Have a good weekend. I'll be talking to you later, okay?
You bet.
All right, thank you. The man's right. Look at this mess on the border with these kids. We don't have time right now to get back into that problem, but the millions and millions and millions of dollars that are going to be spent and wasted on illegal aliens, and we can't take care of our veterans? Are you kidding me? I've got to run for about, 6 minutes, and we'll be back. Zeb at the Ranch, don't go away. Oh my, here we go. Hour number 3, Zeb at the Ranch for a Wednesday, June 25th. Holy buckets. Good morning, good morning. And of course, Zeb at the Ranch brought to you by your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more at 459 Overland and Burley, and our friends at Western Way Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Way Services, we care about our community, our resources, and resources. Western Way Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal.
Western Way Services, always at your disposal, and like I said, a lot of people are planning all the family picnics and the reunions and the company picnics, and boy, when you get outside and you've got a great big area to cover, maybe you're going to need those porta potties to rent from Western Way Services. You call them today, 734-6969, and get on the route service to have your garbage picked up. It's gone, it's out of there. The best, always at your disposal. Western Way Services, call 734-6969. Ladies and gentlemen, also on Thursdays, don't forget Gardening for Idiots, named after me, and sponsored by Vicky's Country Garden at 185 South, 600 West of Paul, and the number 438-5663. Vicky's Country Garden with the lovely Miss Vicky, answering all your questions about how does your garden grow. You be sure and be listening tomorrow at 9:12 right here on Zeb at the Ranch. And again, another reminder, we want to remind you about Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, with our dear friend Joel Heward, the owner-manager, and serving you with the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity at a time of need when there's the passing of a loved one. And by the way, too, if you have questions and you can't make it into the office, call them, and they will be flexible enough to try to make arrangements to be right there and visit with you. Please call them today, 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, serving you. Gentleman that's a very dear friend, and he's been gone the last couple of weeks because of some physical problems that he had to clear up through surgery, and we wish him Godspeed and hope everything is going well. Good morning to Doug Johnson in Colorado. Sir, how are you?
Well, Zeb, I'm good. How are you this morning?
Fantastic. I understand that you wanted the floor for a few minutes before we get started on politics, so needless to say, the podium and the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. I wanted to say something to your listeners. Excuse me. As you've said many times in introductions, you and I have never met in person. We have become friends through this radio program and through discussions on the phone. But that friendship has become very precious and dear to me and my wife. And my wife, who's never even spoken to you or your wife. And during this recent time of health issues I've been struggling with, I want your audience to know that, Zeb, you and Deanne have been the best friends. And I don't mean to get choked up, but I really do. We couldn't be more thankful for you, excuse me, and I really hope your audience knows what a wonderful man you are and what a wonderful wife you have. So I want to thank you publicly for all you've done to reach out to us.
Well, Doug, you know that my thoughts and prayers and Deanne's thoughts and prayers are with you and your wife, and you've gone and had to carry quite a burden the last couple of weeks, and what good is life when we can't have friends to share it with? And you mean a lot to us, and we certainly, I'm very humbled by your comments, and thank you so much. And please know that we're going to do everything we can to help you.
Well, I appreciate that, and really, you're right. This is what life's about. If it's not about relationships, it's not about anything. Nothing else matters beyond relationships because everything else pales in comparison. So we just feel very blessed to have come to know you.
Well, and may I say, like they said on Andy of Mayberry many, many times, right back at you, as Barney would say. And God's blessings to you and your wife. And thank you for those kind comments. I know Deanne would appreciate it just like I do. Doug, you are absolutely an outstanding author. Many, many books to your credit, and also the Horse Sense blog. And I would imagine, even though you've gone through some real trying circumstances lately with your health, you've had a chance to just sit back and shake your head and wonder how in the world could the United States of America let these kinds of problems, i.e. the IRS problems, i.e. the congressional hearing, i.e. the absolute arrogant attitude by Mr. Koskinen of the IRS, how these things could prevail themselves right now. I mean, we're letting America go right down the tube.
Well, we really are, and what hits me so hard, and these are not words I like to say or think, but it's true, and I actually wrote them in my book, No Tomorrows, and that is that, people get the government they deserve, and while you and I and your listeners may not be those who, quote-unquote, deserve this, because we're the ones who are fighting for America, the vast majority of Americans aren't, and the vast majority of Americans are re-electing people who have proven to be damaging to our country. We're seeing primary wins of candidates who've been around for years doing awful jobs for our country, and yet the voters keep voting them back in. And it is really outrageous to see what's going on when we see not just what you're talking about with the IRS, which is terrible, But we see, this president tearing down our military and our defenses. We see, at every turn, we see tragic things happening to our country, and it's gotten to a point really where it's very scary. Now, the good news, and I'm not confident we're going to win this in the long run. I think we may enter that 1,000 years of darkness Ronald Reagan talked about, and it may take that to turn America around. It may take 1,000 years of a terrible, terrible tyranny in our country, but hopefully it won't. And what gives me still a little bit of hope is the American Revolution was started and won by a minority percentage of the American citizens. So it doesn't take the majority to do this, because even at the time of the Revolution, most Americans just didn't care about what was going on. Most didn't take sides either way. And so that gives me hope that maybe that complacency on their part still gives us a chance to take things back.
Doug, when you look at the percentages, and 76% of Americans believe that the IRS lied, cheated, and destroyed the emails on purpose, and the large percentage of Americans right now absolutely think this president is incapable of doing a job for America and for our Constitution. My goodness, Doug, something's got to change. But when it comes down to push and shove with Congress, the House, and the Senate, these people are only concerned about saving their own bacon, saving their own jobs, and give lip service back to their constituents, and nothing ever gets done.
Well, that's absolutely right. They don't realize what's happening and has happened in America. The establishment GOP, which are the ones we have to lay this at the feet of, because they're the ones who control the Republican Party, and that's the only hope we have as the Republican Party to pull things back in Washington. We know the Democrats aren't going to. And they just think this is another battle. It's not their turn to be in power right now, and it just goes back and forth. That's how they think of things. They don't understand what has happened in America. They don't understand the wholesale takeover of our country by the communist movement, predominantly the people who were very much involved with the Soviet communism back during the Cold War. And they don't realize that in the mid-'90s that the major labor unions were taken over by the communists. They don't see how this mindset has infiltrated into our government and now controls even the top-level people, such as Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, the key people in the Democrat Party. And because of this, we have a really, really big uphill battle, and we are in great danger, Zeb, because as America is torn down in all these areas, for example, when Koskinen was being confronted in the hearings, and kudos to people like Trey Gowdy, who really put his feet to the fire, but the smirk he had on his face, the attitude he had was basically, I don't really care what you're saying, because I'm not going to give you what you want. We're the Obama administration, and we don't have to abide by the law. That is what the look on his face appeared to me to be saying, and I think it probably was somewhat true.
No, I totally agree with everything you said. Now, you're much more calm, if you will, and laid back and objective about many things. And I'm one of these kind of guys. I'm like Peter in the Bible. I'm going to draw the sword type thing. Bobby Jindal, Louisiana governor, I was surprised as to his comments earlier this past week. Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal accused President Barack Obama and other Democrats of waging wars against religious liberty and education, and said that the United States people are ready for a hostile takeover. Doug, there are others besides me that are starting to kind of shake and rattle the swords a little bit in this country.
Well, I think there are, and I have a lot of reasons to think that would be a huge mistake for many reasons we can get into. But just in the simplest of terms, the practical terms, we have to remember this government will not give up power easily. They have converted our military, the leadership of our military, to be heavily supportive of them. They've cleaned house and gotten rid of the solid patriot Americans who built our military and built what modern America's defense has been. And I believe that if Americans rise up in the sense of what Bobby Jindal is talking about, which basically is a violent revolution, you will see the government actually bring in foreign troops, be it Chinese, Russian, Nicaraguan, it doesn't matter. There'll be foreign troops. They will not be bound by our Constitution or our laws. They will be going door to door. They'll be knocking down your door. They'll be doing things in our country that we can't even fathom. We haven't had war on our soil in a long, long time, and we will see a bloodbath and a murder of huge numbers, millions of Americans that we can't even fathom. And that's why I believe it's so important that Americans wake up and use the methods that our founding fathers gave us legally to get our government back through the election process, through the constitutional methods, because a war on our soil is not going to be something that's going to come out good from the standpoint of life and the price we will pay. We need to stop this before it goes that far.
Yeah, but I think you will agree with me, though, Doug. There is a time and a place when you have to stand up for your rights, for your liberty, and for your Christianity. There is a war on Christianity. There is a war on our rights, and there is a blatant attack on our Constitution. And as he said, Jindal said, I'm tired of the left. They say they're for tolerance, and they say they respect diversity, but they only respect themselves and people of their own viewpoints. And, Doug, there comes a time when you can say, well, I'll turn the other cheek. Well, like a good friend of mine said one time, I've only got 2 cheeks, so you only get 2 times, and after that, you're on your own. There has to be a time when we stand up tall as Americans and say enough is enough.
Well, I agree, and of course this is a debate we could get heavily into. I have personal views, spiritual views, biblically, that there is a limit to how far we can go, depending on what they're telling us to do. I actually had this debate with somebody this morning earlier who tried to say that, our rights, according to the Constitution, are given by God, and so the Second Amendment, that was the argument, was about the Second Amendment, and so God gives us the right to have guns, and so we should fight for those. And my response was, well, first of all, the Second Amendment was not part of the original documents. The rights that were God ordained were life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Pursuit of happiness in colonial times meant the right to pursue holiness and godliness. It was not about personal pursuits. And that the Bible is very clear that we are only to rebel against our government when the government forces us to do something that goes against what the Bible teaches. So, for example, when the government like China says to their citizens, you will have an abortion if you don't have a male baby or if you have more than one child, that goes against God's law. We must fight that. At all costs, we must fight that. But when the government says something we're not comfortable with or we don't like, that's a different story. And, of course, this could be a 2-hour radio show, so I won't go into big depth. But I think, once again, I go back to the issue that we have rights under our system that allow us to protest. We can do legal, peaceful protests. We can rally people. We can get people to the polls. We can vote people in. And we still have the chance to do that to save America without bloodshed, and that's what I would hope and pray would happen. But I fear that Bobby Jindal is right. We're getting to a point where that may not be the choice Americans make.
You brought up something earlier, and I was going to jump in there and say something because you were 100% spot on. We, as Americans, have allowed this problem to grow like a cancerous cell. And when you look at the likes of 84-year-old Charlie Rangel running again to take over his position in politics, running again as, quite frankly, a criminal, running again as a tax evader, running again as a guy that's had many, many shady dealings under the table, it makes you wonder how in the world his constituents could be that dumb and or duped into putting him back in office.
Absolutely, and it's really ironic you asked this question, of course, today because of the election results around the country yesterday. These kind of questions are right at the forefront for people, and I've been asked this question this morning earlier, and it is amazing. And I think it really goes back to the fact that most Americans, Zeb, are not like you and your listeners who are educated and involved and want to know what's going on. Most Americans just continue to vote for their freebies and to get what they want. They vote for superficial reasons. We see Congress, and I've said this before, I used to say Congress has an 11% approval rating and keeps getting reelected. Actually, now it's down to 7%, and yet all these incumbents keep winning in their primaries. with a 7% approval rating, nobody should be winning in their primaries, but that's not what's happening. Americans are not paying attention.
You know, we're not paying attention, but then on the other hand, we're being fed lies and innuendos and half-truths, and you've got a a president that has, over Obamacare, stood up blatantly 27 times, 27 different speeches, 27 different locations, and told everybody, don't worry, you can keep your health plan, don't worry, you're going to be able to exist just fine on the current health plan you have, you're not going to have to leave your doctor, and they knew 2 years ago that whole thing was going to dissipate and was an untruth. So we have problems right from the top down, the Oval Office right down to our senators and congressmen. We need a complete purging, I think, of the whole mess.
Well, we absolutely do. And the other thing, and I would encourage your listeners to this, you know, people who are listening to shows like yours, who are doing their own research, they may be watching with great skepticism television news, and I don't just mean the mainstream media, I mean any of it, because you have to be careful of all of it. Although there are some good shows, you know, Fox, I mean, you know, you've heard me rail against Bill O'Reilly. I believe that we shouldn't even watch him because he pushes ratings up. He offers nothing to the public. But the bigger issue, there are some good shows on Fox if people want to watch that. You know, Hannity tries, although he lets people speak over each other too much. And Brett Baer does an excellent job on his new show. Greta Van Susteren does a good job, and she's not even a conservative. And Megyn Kelly is a little pit bull who does a great job holding people's feet to the fire. Those are good sources of information in addition to the Internet. And, Zeb, I think it's important that, you know, your listeners, you and I, we've learned to do this. We've learned to go out and find the truth, to get through all the lies that are coming out. And we need to encourage people around us who are not involved to do the same thing. And the best way to do that, because people are not ambitious in general, we need to give them an easy path. And so what I would say to your listeners is, get people they know, friends, family, whoever, to listen to Zeb Bell, and not just for a day or two. They got to make a commitment and say, okay, I'll listen to Zeb for 2 or 3 months, and I'm not going to draw a conclusion. I'm just going to listen, because like anything, sometimes at first truth is very, very abrasive. But with time, it starts to massage on your heart, and you start to realize the truth, and then you become more receptive to it. And so they have to give it a fair chance. But I would encourage your listeners to be out there, and this isn't just a plug for your show, but you got a good show, and I would encourage them to be out there getting people to listen to your show, because that's how they're going to get educated.
You know, Doug, when you look at the world scope of things, and in the last couple of weeks you've had a chance for your own inward meditation and really rely and trust on the good Lord above. What are your thoughts? I mean, what do you see when you look at the newspapers and when you look at the news and you listen to the radio and your own inward thoughts of what's spinning around you in your daily life? Negativity, positive attitude, what do you see?
You mean about the future of America?
Yeah, the future of America and the future of us as Americans.
Yeah, well, you didn't pick an easy question, did you? You know, it has been an interesting last month or two. And my thoughts have really heavily revolved around my family and what will happen if I am not able to live, you know, a normal lifespan. And I'm taken home to be with the Lord sooner than we usually think people are. And the thoughts that go through my heart and my head, Zeb, are... And I use this word carefully, but fear for the future of America, fear for my loved ones, my friends, and my family, at what they face. I have said for a long time, I fear for the children and grandchildren today, and it's even, I guess, more amplified because I look at the state of the world and I think to myself, you know, we tend to think as the providers for our families, we tend to think it's our job to protect and care for our family. And if suddenly you know that maybe, you know, in the near future you may not be there, you have to wonder, how do you know they're going to be safe? And this is a great fear I have, because I don't think America's in a good place today. I think there's a lot of good people fighting for America, but there's a lot of stuff happening that has me concerned. And one of those things that's happening that has me concerned is that people are only focusing on presidential elections. They're not paying attention to the midterms, which are so important.
I agree.
And even to the local and state elections, which are critically important. It's not just about who sits in the Oval Office. our country is in trouble, and so, the school boards around the country that are allowing things like Common Core to come in, and the local municipalities are doing things, the states that are barring oil drilling and things. These kind of things are detrimental for the future of our country, and I have great concern about what's going to happen. And so, in one sense, it makes me very concerned and more prayerful than ever for a future. The other side of me, it makes me, I guess it riles me up and wants me to fight harder. Because I realize it's a wake-up call saying we all have limited time and we don't know how much time that is. Any of us could get run over by a truck tomorrow. We don't know.
Absolutely.
And we need to use the time we have and treat it as being very precious. We need to work really hard for the future, for our families, for our loved ones, our friends, and for our country. And we are missing the priorities in life if we're not doing that.
Doug, that was absolutely very eloquent, and it was very truthful and from the heart. God bless you, my dear friend Doug Johnson, author of the Horse Sense blog. By the way, tell everybody the new book and how it's going. I've got 30 seconds left, real fast.
Okay, the new book is called The Leadership Secret. If they go to horsesenseblog.com, they'll see it and link to where they can get it. And it's going well, and it helps us look for the character traits we're looking for in the leaders we pick to lead in our lives and in our government. All
right, Doug, God bless you, my dear friend. Good to hear you back on the program, and we'll talk to you next week. Thank you so much.
Sounds great, Zeb. I'll look forward to it.
All right. Doug Johnson, dear friend back in Colorado. And it's just a real pleasure to have him back on the program this morning. Hey, don't forget Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for their blue door. Boy, I'm telling you, they've got a telephone number to call, 267-86945. And they say, we can meet or beat any price on flooring. Yes, sirree. And they'll give you free in-house consultation, too. Kyle and Whitney Cheney, they know what looks good. They know how to get the job done with all the hardwood, the laminates, the vinyl sheeting, and, of course, the carpet and the natural stone, the Oakley stone, all the countertops. Oh, my, they do a good job. Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Oh, you know what's coming up next week? Yeah, you hit it right, the 4th of July. But you know what? Rupert 4th of July celebration is going to just be absolutely knocking the socks off of people with all the fun they're going to have under the theme of Let Freedom Ring. Tuesday, July 1st, they're going to have that Christmas in July breakfast at 6 o'clock in the morning. Get up, George Mass, go to the park. And then they're going to have entertainment all day long and the fireworks that night by the Rupert City Fire and Rescue. And they're going to have, like I said, entertainment every single day. Knockout, great entertainment. And along on July 3rd, they're going to have the Firecracker 500 lawnmower races. On the 4th of July, family rodeo at the fairgrounds. And on the 5th, more great entertainment. What more could you ask for? Rupert 4th of July celebration, Let Freedom Ring. You be a part of all the fun over in Rupert. Going to be great. Going to be great. One thing, too, I got to mention a couple of things. Tonight, Wednesday night at Jerome County Fairgrounds, their big team roping, and it starts, sign up at 6:30, rope at 7. Dave Zanino, the stock contractor, 3 for $20 draw pot, enter up to 6 times. And then also there's going to be a fisherman's breakfast at the Rupert Senior Center on Saturday, Saturday, June 28th from 7 to 10 p.m. It's 10 a.m., 7 to 10 a.m., Zeb, for breakfast. There you go. Scared a lot of people. All you can eat, $6 per person. And let's see, also the first annual Iron Kilt Festival coming up this Saturday, June 28th at the South Freedom Park in Burley. There. Don't forget, too, our friends at Let's Ride, Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. Oh, my, that's where the fun is sold. They've got all your ATVs over there. Open the door going into the showroom, look to the left, look to the right, and go, holy buckets, they got them all here, including all the Can-Am side-by-sides and rebates and great financing, and they got all your dirt bikes. Holy smokes, and a service department that can fix anything, and all the accessories. Oh my goodness, get over there today. Right now, Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. They're open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6. Let's Ride, definitely where the fun is sold. And by the way, if you're over in Rupert, you don't want to forget our friends at Cameron Siemens Insurance. Yes, sirree, Bob. They're serving you with the best of life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits. These are the professionals. These guys really know. They're dedicated and responsive to all your needs. All you have to do is just give them a call and say, I need help, and they can help you. 436-4424, 436-4424, Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Let's go to the phone line right now. We're going to go down to Elko, Nevada, and talk to the Perry Mason of Elko, Nevada, Cowboy Perry Mason, and that happens to be my dear friend Grant Gerber. And I got to compliment Grant. When he says he's going to do something, when he says he's going to get involved in something, and when he says he's going to try to make something better, he does. And he just organized a kind of a rally and a great big ride for ranchers in the area to maintain their grazing rights. Good morning, Grant Gerber. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. It's good to be on your show.
I'm glad you remembered my name. It's nice to have you on the program this morning. Grant, tell us a little bit about that ride that you just staged against the BLM dictatorship of canceling the grazing permits for some really big ranches around your area.
Well, I think it's key to understand that in February of this year, Doug Furtado, the BLM manager in Battle Mountain, just out of the blue, told those 6 ranching families that they could turn out no cattle this year on Mount Lewis. It was over 2,000 head of cattle those 6 families had been turning out every year, and he just decided that they weren't turning out this year. And so they contacted me and asked me what they could do about it. And I said, well, you could file an appeal, but it wouldn't be heard in time to get your cattle out this year, and they might not even be able to get them out next year. And they said, well, that's going to break us. So I told them, well, there's another approach. And like Pete Tamara said, you push a mouse in a corner, and even if he's been going along with you before, he's going to fight back. He says, we got our backs up against the wall. We'll try anything. So we organized a grass tour, and we got all the county commissioners in the area, the elected, our state senator, a couple of the state assemblymen, and altogether there were around 200 that went up there. And we looked, and the grass was some places 27 inches tall. We got pictures of it that, just wonderful feed. It had rained, but Furtado would not budge. So next we announced a grass march to, and I said I was going to ride from Elko to Battle Mountain, 70 miles. I figured it was 1 year for each year of my life. And and then we announced that we'd finish it off with a Cowboy Express from Battle Mountain on into Carson City for a total of 320 miles. Well, all of that started getting lots of press because we likened the grass march to the salt march that Gandhi did in India in the 1930s, where the British government would not allow the Indian people to even go to the ocean and distill a little salt for their family. The British government, it was a big source of income for them, and they had total control of the Indian people using that salt. And Gandhi was successful, so we used that as our pattern. But anyway, we did a ride clear to Carson City, 320 some miles.
Wow.
And had a lot of fun with it. We tried to make, even though this was so serious, we tried to make it fun. And I hadn't ridden a lot, long distance since I was a boy, back when there were no fences and you had to go sometimes at a trot, for 15 or 20 miles before you even started gathering cattle. So this was a big change for me, and had a great time.
Well, now tell me something about the net result, Grant. What happened? Is there going to be a opening up of the grazing for these ranchers? Did you succeed? What about the future? What's going to happen over this ride?
We have a major partial victory. We got this once we announced the grass march. Newspapers from Wall Street Journal to the Associated Press. I was contacted by newspapers across the country. It caught their imagination. They started to understand a little about what we were talking about. And as a result of all that press, the Washington BLM decided they'd send somebody out and take a look. So they sent a range guy out from Washington. He went up and took a look at the grass, and they ordered the BLM manager in Battle Mountain, Doug Furtado, to turn the cows out. Mm-hmm. So while we were in the middle of our ride, they started turning cattle out. But they were 70-some days late, so it caused all kinds of disruption for them. And we've identified that it cost them, those 6 families, in excess of $500,000 because of the hay they had to buy, the fence that the BLM demanded they build that still didn't satisfy them, and all the other things, and they're still suffering. But the cattle are out. Over 2,000 head of cattle are out that would not have been out this year if we hadn't done it.
Let me ask you, Grant.
But it's not going to be a clear victory and a total victory until Furtado is gone. We used every element of the First Amendment. We started with a petition demanding that Furtado be removed. In fact, any of your listeners that would like to help, first thing we'd like them to do is get hold of us and get a petition, and we're going to just keep getting signatures until Furtado is gone. I think that he is probably, next to Lois Lerner with the IRS, that he's the worst bureaucrat in the nation. He's vindictive, he's mean, and he just is anti-agriculture.
What has to be done, though, in the proper channels to replace this man? I'm sure that the BLM is going to dig their heels in. I'm sure that the powers that be above Furtado are going to say, no, we put him in there. He's going to stay there and do the job. I'm sure the environmentalists are going to back Furtado staying there. What do you need to do?
Well, I had a meeting yesterday, or last night till 10 o'clock with the ranchers down there, and they are not going to quit. And in the next week or two, if you'd like me back on their show, I'll tell you what they're going to do next.
Okay.
They haven't decided to quite yet to unveil it to the public, but they're not quitting. But the one thing they are that is still that they are still doing that we can talk about is they're getting these petitions. And that's part of the First Amendment, is we can petition our government. And each element of that First Amendment is so powerful. And before I forget it, the most important of all those elements, free speech, petitions, assembly, the press, the most important is prayer. And every one of the meetings they have, every gathering they have, they start with prayer. The Catholic deacon in Battle Mountain offered the prayer at the Battle Mountain rally. Had a Presbyterian minister from Battle Mountains offered prayers at a couple of different places, including the rally we had at the Capitol in in Carson City when the petitions were delivered to Governor Sandoval, and Governor Sandoval said he's going to help. Congressman Amadei said he's going to help, but the problem, Zeb, is that there is no local or even state control over these unelected bureaucrats. They have absolute control unless Washington tells them or the state office tells them to do different, and the citizens in the state have no say at all. That's why we need to transfer the lands to the states.
Which is another part of the story I want to get into. I want to ask you this quickly, though, before we get away from basically the grass and the nature of how the grazing lands looked this year prior to the turnout. You said grass 27 inches high. Why? Grant, I just can't understand with a renewable resource as grass is, and highly regulated and highly watched and moderated by the BLM and others today to make sure that there's not overgrazing. Why waste a commodity that could benefit everybody and leave it dormant? It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
Well, for 35 years I've been an attorney, and I've been involved in many issues on grazing with the BLM, and they claim to do all this wonderful monitoring and such. Well, number one, the people have virtually no local experience with an area. Every area is different, and their monitoring is so haphazard that it's smoke and mirrors. The quote monitoring by the federal government, and so they just operate by whim. And if they're philosophically committed to eliminate cattle and sheep, they use any excuse they can. And those excuses, 98% of the time, have no basis in fact. And that was the situation here. So Doug Furtado doesn't know what he's doing. He's anti-cows and anti-sheep, and he's going to do everything he can to eliminate these ranchers. Now, these are not the only ranchers that he has affected. The entire Battle Mountain district has ranchers south of there were bullied into taking non-use this year and last year, and so many of them their ranching operations have been just devastated. The reason that the Tamara, Filippini, and Mariluch families issue is out in front of the public is that he made 100% cut on them, and they had nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
If he had not made that big a cut, they probably would not have fought. But it was and here's some facts that I just think are critical, and I should have said those earlier. But this mountain, Mount Lewis, is 56% private. Only 44% federal. Mm-hmm. All of the water is owned privately.
I see.
So the federal government only has 44% of the land, but they make all of the decisions with no input from the ranchers. The system is intolerable, and that's why I likened it to Gandhi's and the British government in India. The government has no right to hurt private property interest in this way. All of that private property cannot be grazed unless the federal government authorizes it to be grazed. Mm-hmm. The water cannot be used unless the federal government authorizes it to be used, even though it's all private. The way we say it is these ranchers have an inalienable right to the fruit of their labors.
Absolutely.
And the federal government is denying them that right, and we are not going to accept it.
All right. Grant?
Before we end, I got to tell you.
Yeah, wait a minute. Whoa. Wait a minute, Grant. I can't let you ramble forever because I got to pay some bills here. I'm going to have to jump in and take the needle off the record for a second. Hold on just a second. I gotta get my weather forecast in here, and the weather's brought to you by Red's Trading Post.
Gambler.
Well, I tell you what, you give an attorney a microphone and you're just going to ramble on for all day. You're like an all-day sucker. It's not going to be ended anytime soon, so stay with me. I'll be right with you, I promise. Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Inventory clearance on most of their firearms. Many are below cost. All the guns, all the ammo, all the accessories, and very knowledgeable people at Red's Trading Post in Twin Falls. Here now, the weather.
Looks like partly cloudy skies for today. Going to be slightly breezy. Winds out of the west right around 11 miles an hour. Expect a high of 86. Tonight, low near 58. Now, tomorrow, we do have a 40% chance of afternoon thunderstorms. Still breezy. High of 75 with an overnight low near 52, and currently sitting at 66 degrees here at the KBAR studios.
Thank you very much, Gina. And the weather brought to you this hour by Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls, 733-3546. Holy smokes, hang on to your resistol and put your spurs on your boots. Here comes Grant Gerber back again. Tell us about what's going on with more of the federal lands versus being taken over by the states as it should be. Go ahead, Grant.
Well, I got to tell you one personal experience of that ride. See, we had 300 and some miles, and I rode the first 70 miles, all of it. But then we started using the Cowboy Express. But when we went out of Lovelock, Nevada, on that Thursday morning, we had 125 miles to go that day, and we had to ride. We had to lope most all of it to be able to make it in time. So just as the sun was coming up, I loped out of Lovelock out across that 40-mile desert, and it was one of the great experiences of my life. You know, I just, because I knew by that time that we had figured it right and we were going to make it. And so we traded off all day long. I'd ride 5 miles, put up a sweaty horse and drive 10, get out my next horse, and lope 5 more miles, drive 10. We did that all day long, and it was. I had my horses legged up before we started this thing, and it was just a great experience. And I got to throw in a plug for my friends. I was riding my new Capriola saddle that my wife bought for me a couple of years ago, and on one occasion that horse spooked and jumped sideways, and if I hadn't been riding that good new Capriola saddle, if I'd been riding my old roping saddle, I'd have squirted out of it, I know.
Well,
Had a time, and you wanted to talk about the transfer of land?
Yeah, I want to just quickly, and I've only got about 4 minutes left. You have been very instrumental, along with others, in the West, Nevada, Utah, Idaho. Our own Speaker of the House, Scott Bedke, has attended seminars on possibility of states taking over more federal land within their states. I had Carl Graham on my program last week from Washington, D.C. He's a lobbyist in favor of states attaining more of the federal lands. Give us your thoughts as to where we are right now on that movement.
Well, just 2 weeks ago, we got informed that Arizona now has passed a beginning law to begin taking the first steps toward it. So that means now that we have Utah, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, Nevada, and now Arizona. So we now have 6 states, and the chairman of the American Lands Council, Damar Dahl, was in Alaska 2 weeks ago, and it looks like Alaska's coming on board. We've got some southern and eastern states and midwestern states that are looking at passing resolutions to support. We've already got South Carolina that passed a resolution in support, because we need those eastern, southern, and midwestern states to come on board, just like they did back in 1829 when the Indiana, Illinois, all of those had 90% of their land in federal ownership, they banded together, got the eastern states to understand it was in their best interest, and they got the land transferred. So that's what we're doing.
Well, it sounds to me like you've got things really rolling, and I want to give you kudos. I've known you for a long time, and you've really got involved in the sage-grouse issue. You've got involved with the land issues, and now you're helping your fellow Nevadans right there with the grazing issue. And it takes people like you to get involved and kind of lead the charge against Big Brother government trying to come in and put their big toe on us. And I really salute you for everything you're doing.
Well, you got some wonderful people in Idaho. I've gotten to know that Scott Bedsky some. I was in a meeting earlier this year when he and the Speaker of the House in Utah joined together in helping move this movement on transfer of lands together. And he's doing a great job. You got some great leaders up in Idaho, and I salute all of you folks, and together we're going to get this done.
All right, well, one of those guys is sitting right here in the studio listening to you, and that's Jack Euler, and I don't think anybody is as well-versed on land issues and wolf issues as Jack Euler is.
Well, I've known Jack for a long time, and I'm not sure that he's as smart as you think he is.
Oh, really?
Hey, every time I see Jack, I learn something. He's one of the real leaders in this whole cause of helping us understand and get things done. And tell him I salute him. All right?
I will, Grant, and I wrote down on my day planner to get a hold of you in about 2 weeks for an update as to what's going on. But thank you, kudos to you, and I will be down in Elko, Nevada on July 10, 11, and 12. Hopefully we'll get a chance to visit with you in person, okay?
I talked to one of the Filipinos yesterday that's entered in the saddle bronc riding in Elko, and these cowboys down here just love you.
All right, well, I appreciate it, my dear friend Grant Gerber. God's blessings to you, and I'll be in touch. Thanks for all the information this morning.
Thanks, Zeb.
All right. Grant Gerber down in Elko, Nevada, and believe me, he organized that ride all the way across Nevada in support of ranchers that all of a sudden had the rug pulled out from underneath them as far as grazing is concerned by the BLM, and one man in particular, the head of that region, and that was Mr. Furtado. And they're trying to get him fired, and I hope they do, because doggone it, grass is a renewable resource. The ranchers need it. The state of Nevada needs the economy, and let's use common sense, shall we, and not kowtow to the environmental movement. I want to remind you that Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More, a great big 4th of July sale, 15 months interest-free financing. Oh, my. They pay the tax. That's right, freedom from sales tax. They'll pay the tax. Sofas, tables, chairs, beds, accessories, all on sale. You better get on in there today. The sale ends July 5th. Everything in the store is on sale at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley, and they have been voted the #1 furniture store in the Mini-Cassia area. So please stop in and see the pros with furniture and carpet, bedroom sets, everything. Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. As I mentioned a moment ago, we're going to be down in Elko, Nevada on July 10, 11, and 12 for the great big, oldest rodeo in Nevada, the Silver State Stampede in Elko at the Elko County Fairgrounds. Don't forget, kickoff night on Thursday the 10th with a great big kickoff party, and they do know how to party. That's going to be right there at the Elko County Fairgrounds, tri-tip dinner, Old West bronc riding, all kinds of fun. And then Friday and Saturday night, of course, PRCA rodeo action. It is going to be great. Silver State Stampede at Elko, Nevada, the Elko County Fairgrounds, July 10, 11, and 12. Wow, Gina, when you get Grant on the phone, on the microphone, and you don't have to worry about filling any time, he acts like he was when a little boy who was vaccinated with a phonograph needle.
Wow, it sounded like he wanted to own the show. He was just going for it, but he has a lot of interesting things to say.
Yeah, I got up, I went to the bathroom, I got up again and went to the refrigerator, made a ham and cheese sandwich. I got up, went outside, and checked on all the birds singing by the window, and I come back, he was still going.
He was still a-going, but always a great guest, he is.
He's a lot of fun, too. A good old boy. And for a lawyer, I really like him.
That's saying a lot, actually.
Okay. Hey, coming up next half hour, we've got the other half of a dynamic duo of Batman and Robin. We have my dear friend Jack Euler in the studio, and we're going to be talking about the sage grouse issue. We're going to be talking a little bit about the wolf issue, and actually they intertwine each other when you talk about the environmental interests. We're going to have him coming up in just a little bit, so stay tuned for that. Then, at 10:30 this morning, we're going to talk energy. The president and his cabinet are really pushing today for a carbon tax on every American. Every time you turn on a light switch, every time you turn on the keys to your car, they want to tax you for every bit of carbon energy that you use. This would absolutely break America. That's coming up at 10:30 with Dan Kish. We're going to take a little break right now, turn it back over to our main studios, ABC News coming up, and then we'll be back with more Zeb at the Ranch. Oh, welcome back. Hour number 3, Zeb at the Ranch on a Wednesday. Beautiful day outside. I'm Zeb Bell, and our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley, and our friends at Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today. Call them at 734-6969. Before I introduce my guest, I want to also mention that today at the Chadwick Sports Grill, they've got ground round steaks with gravy, choice of potatoes, super salad for just $8.95. Oh, the food is great. The people are so friendly. And you know the environment inside with all the sports memorabilia? You're going to love it at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. You stop in and see them today. Hey, a lot of big things are going on over at Rupert for the 4th of July celebration, and some businesses that are really high on Rupert and their 4th of July celebration include Haskin Insurance Service. Oh my goodness, these are wonderful folks. 629 Fremont Street in Rupert. Number to call for your insurance needs, 436-4141. Don't forget, for all your home, auto, farm, life, or health, give them a call. Mike, Don, and Terry, always there to serve you, and believe me, they've been located in downtown Rupert since the turn of the century, and they'd love to hear from you. Haskin Insurance Service, your partner in insurance protection. Along with our friends at Dixon Oil, every time we have a special event over there, they jump right in and want to help promote it. Dixon Oil at 602 South 2nd in Rupert. Really nice people. 436-6609. Dixon Oil's been in business since 1976. All your fuels, all your oil, and a great crew to serve you and wish you the best 4th of July ever. Be safe, be sane, and get your vehicle checked out today at Dixon Oil, 602 South 2nd in Rupert. My dear friend, Jack Euler, is in the studio with me right now. Jack, good morning to you. Nice to have you on the program.
Thank you, Zeb. It's good to be here.
You got here a little bit early and listened to some of the remarks of Grant Gerber, a good friend of ours, attorney down in Elko, Nevada. Grant has really done a lot way over and above to help his people down in Nevada fight environmentalism. We need more people like him.
We need a lot more people like him. Grant Gerber is a great man and a great person for the United States of America.
You know, Jack, I've hailed you many, many times on this program. You're another one of those people we can't do without. God bless you for everything you've done regarding fighting the wolves and fighting the environmentalists and the Agenda 21 issues. But there is an issue that we're very concerned about that could potentially shut down the entirety of the West, and that's the sage grouse issue. Are we making any inroads so that common sense prevails and we all try to get along so that there's not going to be a closure?
No, that's a good.
Thanks, Jack, for coming.
No, yes. We are making, it depends on the way you look at it. If you look at it from the government side, no. And what's going to happen in August of 2015 is the sage grouse is probably going to be listed as an endangered species, and then the BLM, as Grant was talking about, they'll have us off, and Forest Service, they'll have us off of public lands. That's why all this work and things that are going into the states taking over the public lands within the borders of their states is very, very important. Mm-hmm. Now, this meeting that Grant alluded to was in Salt Lake. Scott Bedke was chair of that meeting, and co-chair was the Speaker of the House of Utah legislature. And all the states were there. Grant was there. I mean, they're working towards doing something about this, and I hope it keeps going, and I hope we're successful in that route, because that's what we're going to have to do to protect our interests.
Jack, I don't think it's exaggeration, and if I do exaggerate, I want you to kind of rein me back a little bit and tell me exactly where I'm right or wrong. But of all the things I've read and all the things I've studied about the sage grouse and the issue with habitat and the putting them on the endangered species list and everything, I do not think that the general public understands it could very possibly eliminate a lot of the cities and towns and communities in the West and curtail any kind of an economy for that state regarding agriculture.
It's going to. I mean, if all you have to do is look at the map of where the government is taking their steps, and you can tell. Mm-hmm. I mean, whether it's through the Ag Department, whether it's through the EPA, whether it's through whatever department it's through, we're under attack. We are under attack. But let me talk about the sage-grouse a minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Elko County has been very proactive, and they passed a resolution declaring the common raven down there a nuisance and a threat to the health, safety, and welfare of the people of Elko County. Now, as a result, they have been doing predator control on predators that go after sage-grouse, which are ravens and other things. Right. But you have read the things that have been in the Times News about there's no scientific evidence, there's nothing to back all this stuff up, and I mean, it's been hammering the Fish and Game and what they're going to do and what their proposal is, but there is scientific evidence. It is out there. A recent scientific study conducted in a portion of northern Nevada concluded that depredation accounted for 82.5% of nest failures of sage-grouse.
82.5%.
That was done by Lockyer, a biologist, in 2013. It was printed. And another study concluded that nest depredation represents approximately 94% of the sage-grouse nest failures, and that was done by biologist Moynihan, and that was done in 2007. Now, these aren't, I didn't pull these out of the air. I don't know these people, but this was put together by Grant Gerber.
I get really upset, and I know you do too, very emotional about the fact that the Times News seems to be coming out lately as a pro-environmentalist against anything and everything that is involving agriculture or helping to make agriculture grow and prosper. And when they made statements basically that it was idiotic to go after the predators, etc., you know, I really get offended by that because they didn't have any fact whatsoever behind the basis of their conversation.
That's right. And that's why I'm here today to talk about these percentages and the things that are going on. It says here also in Moynihan's study that an increase in one raven per 10 kilometers is associated with a 7.4% increase in the probability of greater sage-grouse nest failures. But you get down further in this, and they go after and kill newborn calves and newborn sheep by picking their eyes out.
Yeah, there's a multiplicity of things that the predators are causing problems with. But in our society today, wouldn't you agree that we have a contingent of people that are pro-predator and really not helping the species that's endangered?
That's where you roll it into the wolf issue.
Yes.
Yes. The answer to your question is yes, and that's where you roll it into the wolf issue.
You know, we're looking at the wolf issue. We looked at the spotted owl issue. We've looked at the salmon issue. We've looked at the snail dart issue, and now, of course, the sage-grouse issue. These things just keep creeping out of the woodwork every time, all the time, to do nothing more than just diminish the footprint of mankind.
That's right. And you move into the wolf issue, and with the same question, and this Linda Grosskopf in September of 2013 wrote, "I long ago came to the realization that the entire issue is not about wolves, it's about more basic things than that. It is about simple things, private property rights."
Yeah, and control.
And control.
And control.
Of our private property.
Jack, private property rights, let's talk a little bit about that. There's a big push right now with the EPA that if there's a little puddle of water on your property, they're going to try to come in and legislate and regulate that. The EPA wants control over everything. I absolutely am very concerned about government having its stamp of approval on every aspect of our life, and there's many people that said within a decade we might not even see any private property.
Well, and that's why it's so important that the states on a local level get control of the public lands around them or within the borders of the state to protect our rights.
Maybe Bobby Jindal from Louisiana wasn't that far off when he said that there was a rebellion brewing in the United States and people might want to take a hostile takeover of the Capitol. You know, that's the governor of Louisiana talking, not me.
There was guns in southern Nevada a couple of months ago by that rancher down there, but that ride from Elko, Nevada, a couple of weeks ago to Carson City, 333 miles, that was monumental also, and the people better realize that those cowboys and those people that were on the backs of those horses did a great service to the rights of the people of the state of Nevada and the United States.
Jake, I'm thinking of my son all of a sudden. He's a sportsman and loves to go hunting. But when you talk, Jack, about the sage-grouse issue, and I had a news release come to me this last week, last Friday, as a matter of fact, and the headline said, the USDA announces landmark commitment to improve sage-grouse habitat. What do statements like that from the USDA, what do they mean? Are they going to be willing to work with farmers and ranchers? And then, of course, the Endangered Species Act might back off a little bit on listing the birds. I mean, what does this mean, really?
You got to do something if you're going to improve the habitat for sage-grouse. And what does that mean? It does mean that you got to manage sagebrush. A sagebrush that's 6 feet, 4, 5, 6 feet high. Nothing grows under it. It's just like a juniper tree. Nothing grows under it. It takes everything. There's no grass down there, and the sage-grouse need, especially baby sage-grouse, need young green grass because they not only get the grass and the nutrients out of that, but they get the water and everything else that goes with it. But you need grass for that. And if you don't have all that habitat, yes, there is a problem with habitat, but who is doing anything about it? It's only the private property owners. The government has no projects going at this time to manage sagebrush. I met with a biologist last Friday from Deseret Land and Livestock here in Twin Falls, and he talked about carrying capacity for sheep, for cattle, for elk, for deer, and all wildlife. And he has to, on Deseret Land and Livestock, work with these people to come up with carrying capacity.
Let me ask you this, and you've always been a straight shooter on this program. Is the problem with the sage grouse as bad as the environmentalists say it is, or is it another political ploy just to control the people?
It's politics, and that's what I read out of that book. All of this is politics. I mean, it is controlling the people and what they do on public lands. The South Hills is a good example. Every year, more trails, more access get closed off, whether it be Forest Service, whether it be BLM. We're going to be closed off in public lands if we don't wake up.
Yeah,
I've fought it for a long time, and I know I've seen a lot of changes over the years, and ranchers are being pushed off, and as a sage grouse, yes, there's a lot that can be done, but you got to take care of the predator. You got to control the predator along with the habitat.
Okay, now, Jack, are we as an entity, we the sportsmen, we the ranchers, we the farmers, we the people that really love the great outdoors of the state of Idaho and the Northwest, are we doing enough? Are we doing what needs to be done? Are we fighting these people efficiently? What more can we do?
Western Watersheds said, they came right out and said, they want cattle off the range. They want sheep off the range. They want grazing stopped. I mean, what can we do? We have got to be proactive, and we've got to deal with our legislators locally in the states to make some of this stuff happen. I mean, it is ridiculous, the things that go on. And that can go to the fish and game also. The fish and game talk about habitat all the time. But do they have any habitat projects? No. They don't have any sagebrush projects going at this time.
Okay, so what can we as a general public do to help stimulate the growth of the idea with the fish and game and others? What can we do?
You've got to get involved. You've got to learn what the issues are. The environmentalists do not want us there, and we have got to start proving that, hey, this is ours too, and we can be there.
Right.
Now, sage grouse habitat, 40% of it is private property, and 60% is federal. So, you got to work with both entities there.
Would you agree, Jack, that, and it's a shame, but I think we in general were really naive years ago about the environmental movement. We didn't think that they could gain this much power. We didn't think they could gain that much money. We didn't think they could do what they've done so far in taking control. And now all of a sudden we're finding ourselves kind of with our heels on the edge of a cliff being ready to be pushed over.
That's right. And what you say, the environmentalists, you tell me what they have done that is good for anything except predators. I mean, their work is for one thing, and that's to bring up an issue that they can raise money on. This is a money issue to the environmental groups. This is a money issue. And that's where it gets political, because that money goes right to Washington, D.C., and that's what keeps this thing going.
You know, you said a statement earlier, and I want you to elaborate on it a little bit. You know, it's not for the protection of the sage grouse. It's not really for the protection of the wolves. It's not really for the protection of the snail darter, whatever. It's for lining their own pockets and for the 7-letter word control, isn't it?
That's right. And I wrote an extensive article on this, and in March, I tried to get that in the Twin Falls newspaper, and as of yet, they will not print it.
I don't understand why not. Have they given you a reason?
Because it's supposedly too long, and they wanted me to cut it down. I said, put it in on the weekend, where you can have a longer article.
Right.
And then they wanted me to cut it down. I started to read it over and cutting it down, and I have so much information, it needs to be 4 times the size that it is.
So you're saying that perhaps it's a concentrated effort to stifle your voice?
Completely.
I'm asking you.
Completely.
Okay. But more people need to get involved. You can't do this by yourself, and Grant Gerber can't do it by himself down in Nevada. We need people, lots of people.
You know, Grant and I meet quite often, and we look at each other, and I say, Grant, how old are you? And he says, well, how old are you? And we're both over 70. So, yeah, some people need to get involved.
Absolutely.
And I met with some people the other night, last Wednesday night. Hey, they're wanting to get involved, but they want me to teach them what they need to know. Get on the bandwagon.
Okay, last question I'm going to have time for this morning, Jack. Are we, and that entails everybody, whether it's hunters, fishermen, ATVers, ranchers, grazers, are we too late? Or can we stop this train coming down the tracks that is trying to control us?
Yes, I think we can. But I think what's going to happen is the states are going to have to take control of the public lands. But let me give you a figure that on what the wolf issue has cost the taxpayers of this country. Over $200 million and counting that the federal government and the states have spent to reintroduce the wolves in the West. This figure does not include the economic losses that states have had to endure since the wolves were reintroduced.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I mean, and people have got to get involved.
But yet the overall economic figures of having basically the West be shut down and communities stop and be curtailed, that's a figure you can't even put a finger on yet.
That's right.
Yeah.
The best example I have of that is that area, or that valley north of Gardner, Montana, where there used to be 2,860 elk permits sold in that area every year. Today there is 0. There used to be 24 outfitters and guides. There used to be service stations full of hunters, and there used to be a lot of trucks sold for hunters. There used to be all these things. The restaurants in towns, they're not there anymore because it has killed the economies of these areas.
Okay, well, Jack, keep on fighting. We absolutely appreciate and love what you're doing. You, along with Grant Gerber and many others, we say a salute to you for all your effort. I got to run right now, but keep us informed and let us know what's happening, Jack. We appreciate it.
Okay.
God bless. Jack Euler, a dear, dear friend of mine, and believe me, he'll be back at a later time with more issues regarding the sage grouse. We're going to take a little break right now, and then when we come back, we're going to have our weather forecast and introduce our next guest, Dan Kish with the Institute of Energy Research. Don't go away. I'll be back in about 3 minutes.
And now Now back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Oh, thank you very much. Before we get my dear friend Dan Kish on the program this morning, let's quickly go to the weather forecast, and it's brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, selling taste one bite at a time. Oh, my goodness, a locally owned custom meat processor for over 20 years with delicious marinated tri-tips for any occasion. Absolutely the best. Scarrows Meats in Jerome. Right now, here is the weather.
Partly cloudy skies for today. Winds out of the west right around 11 miles an hour. Expect a high of 56 for today. Tonight, low near 58. Now tomorrow, we do have a 40% chance of afternoon rain showers and thunderstorms. Still going to be breezy, high of 75 with an overnight low near 52. And for Friday, partly cloudy and 75.
Excellent weather forecast. Thanks, Gene. Appreciate it. Brought to you by Scarrows Meats. Don and the rest of the crew, really good folks. Call today for all the information you need at 324-7657. Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, selling taste one bite at a time. Let's go to the phone lines right now, and a gentleman that I absolutely really treasure his friendship and also his knowledge when it comes to energy issues. And we have with us the IER, Institute of Energy Research, Senior Vice President of Policy, Dan Kish. Good morning, Dan. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. I'm doing well and hope you are.
I always look forward to talking to you because you are, like in the verbiage of the Old West, a straight shooter. And I wanted to ask you about this meeting that's going on right now this morning with Obama and some of his close friends like Tom Steyer, former Mayor Michael Bloomberg, and U.S. Treasury Secretary Hank Paulson. They're pushing for, and we'd heard about this for quite some time, a carbon tax. A national carbon tax. What in the world would that do to the American families?
Let's think it through. I mean, our electricity, most of it in the United States that's produced comes from sources of natural gas, coal. We don't make a lot of electricity out of oil, but between the two of those, it's about 2/3 of the electricity we get gives off carbon dioxide. So it would, if they put a tax on that, that means our electric rates would go up. If we drive cars, they consume oil or gasoline or diesel. That gives off carbon dioxide, so that would mean that there'd be a tax on that. If we fly on an airplane or use a boat, that all produces carbon dioxide, so that would cost. The fertilizer that we use for our crops is made from hydrocarbons, which means that it would cost of fertilizer would go up. The cost of running a combine or any kind of tractor would go up. The cost of transporting goods, once you finish them, would go up. If a factory uses energy, prices of those products would go up that we have to compete with other countries on. I think it's a fair bet to say that the price of everything could go up.
Now, Dan, I guess the obvious question from my microphone to your telephone would be, how would they regulate this? How would they discern how much you owe on this stupid, frivolous tax? How would they go about saying each American used this much or that much, and how would they perform a percentage of increase on the taxes? How would they know?
Oh, well, that's actually pretty simple. The mechanics, that's why they like it, The mechanics of that are pretty simple because it's chemistry. They basically, they know how much, when you burn a gallon of oil or gasoline or whatever, they know how much carbon dioxide it gives off, and it's very easy for them to determine that. Same with a ton of coal, all the rest. And so basically what they do is charge the people that produce this stuff somewhere along the line. You'd get, they'd charge them, and then, of course, they'd just pass the costs on to you. The actual tax would be collected from the fuel producer, and the cost of the fuel you buy from that fuel producer would be reflected. The cost of that tax would be reflected, and so it's really easy. It's not as though they'd send you a bill every year for how much carbon dioxide you put out. You'd pay it at the pump. You'd pay it on your electric bill. There wouldn't be a special line item for it. It would just be included in the cost of the fuel would go up. Your electricity would go up, and it'd be all blended into your bill. So that's not a problem. The problem is paying for it, especially when folks can barely pay their bills now.
Well, Dan, that's just the point. I mean, you've got to be a complete imbecile to think that a tax like this, a carbon tax, would float in an economy that's teetering on the edge right now. Senior citizens, those on fixed incomes, those that have to go maybe round trip 100 miles a day for work, those that have to rely upon their own vehicle to get to work, to try to be a positive for the economy. My goodness, this would just absolutely disrupt everything. I don't see how in the world America right now can accept the frivolity and stupidity of a carbon tax.
Well, I guess if you're Michael Bloomberg and you're a billionaire, or if you're Tom Steyer and you're a billionaire, or whoever the rest of these billionaires are, they probably don't really, tax on. Who knows? I mean, they just pay for they use their helicopters and jets and the rest of this stuff. It doesn't seem to bother them. And I mean, I know I couldn't afford to live like they do or pay the bills that they pay for energy now. So, and I'll bet none of your listeners could either. But ultimately, what we're talking about here is these people are just out of touch with the way Americans live. What's really stunning about it is that we have a president of the United States who also flies around. I mean, nobody has a carbon footprint like he does. When he goes somewhere, it's on a 747, and they bring another one behind to carry the vehicle for him in that, so that he can drive around in safety. And I don't begrudge him that. That's an obligation we have to our president. But the point is, these people all live like kings. Plenty of folks are trying to figure out whether they can put a $10, hand the guy at the gas station $10 or $20 when they go in there. They don't have somebody pump their gas for them.
Dan, I just don't understand why the wealthy in this country, i.e. the Bloombergs and the Obamas and everybody else that you mentioned, cannot understand that, like I said a moment ago, we're teetering on the abyss right now of falling into a financial hazard that we might never crawl out of. This country can show greatness again if we develop an energy program that's economical for people to get out and do business like we used to. But right now, with carbon taxes and everything else, all we're going to do is hermitize ourselves, and then aren't we all going to be losers, even the Bloombergs and other people, if the economy falls into the tank?
Well, I guess my theory on this is they don't really feel like anything can ever touch them. They're above it. Taxes, who cares? We don't pay them anyway. We've got good accountants, so we can afford to do that. And I think they really think that they don't, that they're above it. That country doesn't really matter to them. They can go wherever the things are good and all the rest. But one thing's for sure, that these people are not on the same planet with you and me. And I think with most Americans, this is just crazy. There's a bunch of rich guys going around saying that everybody else has got to live with less. And none of us can even conceive of how it would be to live like them. And I find it the height of hypocrisy. Unfortunately, there's more and more of this. You got these people in Washington. They're all making good money, living like kings, telling the rest of us we got to live with less, and telling us that the way we live is wrong. And I think that's why you see the American public beginning to rise up, and object to this. I mean, these people are no smarter than you or I are. All they are is a little trickier, or they've got more money or something like that. We've got our obligations to our families, to our communities, and they're at every turn they seem to be coming up with a new way to make life more difficult for us, make our food go up in cost, make our energy go up in cost, give more money to the government so that they can take it back to Washington and hand it out to their friends, and this isn't the way our framers planned it. This isn't. There seems to be there's nothing to be recommended to this whole approach, and yet these people get lots of publicity because they can buy their way through a press conference and put out fancy publications urging that everybody's energy bills go up and trying to convince us that we don't pay enough for gasoline already. And I don't know about you, but it's very annoying to me. But on the other hand, I'm sort of like, I'm almost getting beyond it. You know what I mean? It's like, who are these people? Why does anybody listen to them at all?
Well, I agree with you. I'm very vocal about this, Dan. Unfortunately, we don't know each other on a closer kind of a relationship to the point where you could see my lifestyle and how I live and what I do, and I could see yours as far as what you do and your attitude towards government. I absolutely am like Bobby Jindal. And I'm going to come right out and say it. Bobby Jindal last week on Monday came right out and said that there's a rebellion brewing in this country, and I believe it and I support it, because these people that have taken over control of this country, the Obama administration and all the other yes men that follow him, they are killing off the American dream, and it's got to be stopped. And I do believe a rebellion is brewing, and it's necessary.
Well, Zeb, I have to agree with Bobby Jindal too, and because it's true. It's true. People have just had it up to here. I mean, they can barely pay their bills now, and then we have a bunch of billionaires. Think about this. We have a bunch of billionaires and politicians in Washington running around saying, you're not paying enough for your energy. You're not paying enough for your gasoline. You're living too well. I don't think most of us feel like we're living too well out there in the real world. And these are the people, they look down their nose at all the rest of us as though we're like cattle or something, although, I think cattle are a pretty good thing. But that's how they treat us. They treat us like livestock or something. And it's always something, and there's more and more of this, and they just don't seem to let up. At every turn, they've got a new excuse to tax us more and to take away more of our liberties, and, to tell us more and more things that we ought to be doing, because they're smarter than we are, and we're doing things wrong. And frankly, it doesn't appear to me like they're doing things very well in Washington. I don't know why they ought to be telling us around, out in the real world, how to live our lives when they seem to screw up everything they touch.
Yeah, but Dan, what do we do? I mean, I know we hear the standard, write a letter to your congressman, write a letter to your senator. I've done all that. I get vocal on the radio. I try to get people to be as mad about this as I am, and like the old Eddie Childs statement, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. I just want people to jump up and do something, but what can we do? Nobody seems to be listening to us.
Yeah, well, that's the other frustrating part about this, is that people have been growing increasingly impatient, and that's maybe what Bobby Jindal was talking about. But there's this sense of frustration because it doesn't seem like, I think most Americans would say, hey, we're already paying too much for gas. That's why they say, let's open up the Keystone Pipeline. Let's bring these supplies down from Canada. They don't understand why it is that we're in light of what's going on over in Iraq with the whole debacle over there, the president doesn't think it's in our national interest to bring in oil from Canada, or right next door, and loosen the pressure that we've been developing on oil and gas prices. So I think what's happening is there is a lot of that. It's bubbling up. People are like, well, when are things going to change? When are things going to change? I guess I say, this is where we have to ask for to God to bless us, and to continue to just as more and more people become aware of this, keep doing what you're doing. I mean, the fact of the matter is, I've talked to your listeners before. I think they, in many cases, are getting a belly full of it too. This is, after all, a representative republic in the United States, and people have the right to vote, and people have the right to express themselves, and if not at a national level, certainly at a state level. If Washington isn't listening, then make your people at the state level listen. And the states are actually supposed to have some autonomy from the feds as well, and send that message that way, so that they aren't making the same bad decisions at the state level that we've got at the Fed level, but I'll grant you, it's very frustrating. And you just scratch your head when you see a bunch of billionaires talking about how somehow the rest of us have to pay more for energy because they say so.
Absolutely.
You didn't elect them. You didn't elect them. I guess the country did elect President Obama, and he feels that way too, but I think the country is beginning to turn on a lot of his policies as well as they begin to see the consequences of what those policies represent.
Absolutely. Dan, I'll tell you something. Just stay on top of this story for us, and next Monday I'll give your office a call and see what's been going on with dear Tom Steyer and Michael Bloomberg and the rest of these nincompoops, and we'll have an update on this, and I appreciate your time this morning. Dan Kish, Institute of Energy Research's Senior Vice President of Policy. Thank you, my dear friend. Have a great weekend, and I'll be in touch.
Thank you, Zeb.
God bless. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Bye-bye. You know, Dan summed it up when he said, here we have billionaires. Tom Steyer, Michael Bloomberg, the president, and Hank Paulson, U.S. Treasury Secretary. They're sitting at a meeting and deciding how much we should pay. How much we should pay? Millionaires, billionaires, deciding the fate of our checkbook and pocketbook. This is asinine. And I want it known, I'm standing here in complete support today of Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal when he gave his address last Monday and saying that people are ready for a hostile takeover of the nation's capital and a rebellion is brewing. As well it should. As well it should. We're going to change things a little bit today because I am going to be out of the office tomorrow, and the lovely Sharon Hardy Mills and the lovely Gina Jameson are going to run the program for me tomorrow. So we're going to talk about food right now on the program. And if you're hungry and starving to death, I know of some great places to go. Oh, yes, I do. Taco Bandito, 2301 Overland in Burley. Southern baked burrito, either soft shell or grilled shell. This is really good. Chicken or steak made a special way that just Kip knows. Kip knows how to make these, and they are delicious. Along with the Bandito burritos and the chicken strip baskets and the nacho burritos, everything is fantabulous at Taco Bandito, 2301 Overland in Burley. How about let's head on over to Burgers, etc. 2 locations. One at 124 South Oneida in Rupert and the other at 700 North Overland in Burley. And summer's here. Summer's here. Listen to this. And to celebrate, Burgers, etc. has 16-ounce root beer floats after 3 p.m. for only 99 cents. What? 99 cents? Oh, my! And fresh strawberry shakes, too. Cheeseburgers, hamburgers, everything, and every Sunday shrimp dinner special at the Burley store. Burgers, etc. 124 South Oneida in Rupert and 700 North Overland in Burley. Let's head on over to Steve-O's at 290 South, 600 West of Hayburn, whichever way you want to say it. Food made the way you like it. And by the way, the patio's open. They just remodeled it, and they're waiting for you to come on into Steve-O's and try it out. Come on in for lunch and soak up the sunshine, or after work and relax. Oh, the food is great. The environment is fantastic at Steve-O's. And don't forget those pork chops with salad and choice potatoes, one of my favorites. Friendly servers that are to serve you at Steve-O's in Hayburn. Let's move over to Duck Uglies. 163 West Highway 30 in Burley, right next to Berry Equipment and Rental. And boy, I'm telling you, they got all the steaks, the ribeye steak, the New York steak. They got the shrimp. They got the salmon. They've got fantastic sandwiches, hero sandwiches. They got chicken, bacon, and ranch, and a Philly cheesesteak sandwich that is absolutely great. You're going to love Duck Uglies, kid and family friendly, and it's located at 163 West Highway 30 in Burley, Duck Uglies. And last but not least, if you're hungry and starving to death, don't forget the AC Drive-In at 601 East Main in Burley. voted to have the Best Hamburger Award for the Mini-Cassia area. I'm telling you what, they've got the famous Farmer Brown burgers and the ranch burgers and the fries and all the special sauce. And don't forget they got the combo meals. Oh my, it's good. And they can make any kind of milkshake that you want, and it is going to be fantastic. AC Drive-In, 601 East Main in Burley. You stop in and see them today. And those are just a few great places to go if you're hungry, Gina is, and starving to death. And she always is.
I am.
I am too. You know, last night, my wife, for supper, made me a great big fajita. I mean, it was crammed full of hamburger and fried eggs and cheese, and oh, man, it was great.
Sounds delicious.
I know. What are you going to have for lunch?
Honestly, a Hot Pocket.
Really spending a lot of time and effort on your meals, aren't you, kid?
Ooh, you know, yeah. So I'm going to have a Hot Pocket for lunch today.
Well, you know, now I want to say thank you to you and Sharon Hardy Mills. You're going to be running the program tomorrow, and be careful.
We shall, and make sure that you have a show to come back to on Monday.
Yeah, thanks. I enjoy the income.
I'm sure you do.
No, you guys are great, and I really appreciate your effort, and you're always diligent in looking over everything to make sure everything's done and everything, so I appreciate that. Sharon Hardy Mills and Gina Jameson will be doing the program tomorrow. I will be up in Sun Valley. I got to deliver a speech tomorrow morning, so I'll be up there and then coming back on Monday, so we'll look forward to that.
Okay, well, you have a great time, and we will check in with you on Monday.
Okay, I got to just tell everybody, too, before I leave, about the Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh, my goodness, best tire value promise in the industry. Now, I really don't care if you're driving a car, SUV, pickup, and you're pulling your horse trailer, your boat trailer, or whatever. You better get outside and look at your tires. Look at your tires without the R in the beginning. Look at your tires and make sure that you've got enough tread left to be safe. If not, get into the Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, and they can help you with the tires that best are going to fit your mode of driving. Yep, they got free peace of mind tire protection, free lifetime tire and mileage care, and they've got easy credit plans available for you. 4 different plans are available. All the brake service, the front end alignment, shocks and struts, the fancy chrome wheels, and the batteries. They've got it all. They've got it all, including the very best of service. Stop in and see Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Well, that's about going to do it for today, and I want to remind everybody, big team roping tonight in Jerome. That's going to be at the Jerome County Fairgrounds, starting at sign-up 6:30, rope at 7, Dave Zanino, 3 for $20. Also, there's going to be the Iron Kilt Festival at the South Freedom Park coming up at Saturday, the 28th, this weekend. Don't miss that. And also the Fisherman's Breakfast at the Rupert Senior Center, and that's going to be from 7 to 10 a.m. in the morning on Saturday, June 28th. All you can eat, just $6 a person. Going to be a lot of fun. Until Monday, I will say the way things were are the way things ought to be. God bless you and your family. Have a safe, sane weekend, and we'll see you right back here at Zeb at the Ranch on Monday. God bless.